So we are going to create the service now. For that, open a command prompt. I have already opened this command prompt. Okay, before creating the service, let us create a folder in our Angular app. In this app folder, create a folder. Okay, go to add new folder. Name it as services. Okay, so in app, if you see, we have created something called services. This is a empty folder. Now we will go to this particular services. So type cd. Okay, before that, I think we need to go app. We need to give the correct path of the services. So we are here till now. So from here, we need to go to src, then in app, and then we can go to services. So type the path something like this: cd src, then app, and then okay. So we are into the services now. Here we can create a service ng generate name of the service. We are going to give it as user. Fine. Give it as user only. So this will take some time and it will create a service in our Angular service in our Angular app. So service is created. You can see here in this service folder the two files .cs and .spc.cs is created. Now we will go to this user.ts and here we will write a method. In that method we will hit the API service that we will create using the ASP.NET Web API in our project. So let us define a method first. I am writing it as register user. So this is a method we are going to define in this service. In this method, we are going to hit the web API. So for that, we are going to use something called HTTP client and observables. To use HTTP client, again we need to go to app.module, and here we need to import something called HTTP client module. So HTTP we need to import it. Again go here and give something called import module from. Now we need to give it the something called okay. For that, let's go to package.json and from here you will get something called something angular common. Yeah, so you can copy this because we are importing it from there. So give it as okay. Yeah. So this is fine. Now HTTP client module is imported in our app module, so we can use it across the application, across the Angular app. So fine. Now let's go to register is user.service.ts again, and here we will use our HTTP client. So to use HTTP client, let's inject it into the constructor. So for that I am using something like this. HTTP again. Yeah, so again this HTTP client has been imported. But I think this is not the correct path. Let us change it to something. Okay, wait. Give it as HTTP client. Okay, so let us give this. Yeah, so we have to select, we have to import it from Angular common HTTP. Now we will use this HTTP variable to hit the web services. So for that, we are going to write something like this. This dot HTTP dot, we are going to post something, right? So we will write something like this, post. And now we will give some URL in this particular post method. And after giving the URL, we will give something, some object to pass the details of the user to the services. And for that, we are going to create an interface in our Angular app. So let us create a interface in our Angular app. For that, go to this app folder. So add a new folder. Name it as user interface. Just go add new items and select script. From there, select type script. Click OK and give it the name as user. Go to this user.ts and here define an interface. Write it as export interface so that we can use it in other .ts file. Name it as iUser and now define the variable in it. So we are going to give full name, email ID as string. Then we are going to give mobile number as number and then age as number. Now we are going to use this particular interface in our user.service.ts. So for that we are going to declare a variable here of name user of type iUser. But for that we have to import that interface into this particular .ts file. So just click here, it will suggest you what to import. So this interface is imported now. Now from this register user method, we are going to hit our web API. So for that we are going to use this post method, and this post method will take two arguments. One will be the URL and second will be this user variable. So we are going to give user variable. Now here we have to give the URL of the API. So for that we need to have the API working, right? So leave this first field as of now. We will give this URL later. In this register user method, we have to take some variables as the argument. So let us give it as full name I will describe it later. Then suppose we are taking email ID. So it is also a string. Then and then fine. So we have got these variables in this particular method. So we are going to now assign this user variable of interface type with this value. So for that we are going to write all the, first of all I guess, full name, and this will be full name that we are getting as the argument. Then again email ID, we are getting it as the email ID. This email ID we are going to give here. Fine. Now we are going to give mobile number, and this will be the mobile number coming as the argument. If you type here, this should be this. And now we are going to give age as age. So we have assigned this user variable with the interface. Now this HTTP post will give the response in form of JSON. But we can also convert it in whatever format we want. Suppose we want to convert it in Boolean, so you can simply type here something like this, and this will be converted to Boolean. This response will be converted to Boolean. We can simply return this value from this method, and for that we need to write return here. And here also we need to give return type as Boolean. Now we want to use observable here. It will facilitate the asynchronous communication between the response and request, and that's why our application will perform better. We will discuss more about that in our separate video. For now, we are just going to use it. And to use that, first of all, we need to write something like this. So we need to import this from a package. Let me import it first. Import you can check it from this. Yeah, this one we need to import it from here. So you can simply, and if you see, this is imported. Yeah, so now we have created a method register user in our services. Now this is returning the value in form of observable. So in the .ts register.component.cs, whenever we call this particular method, now we are going to call this particular service method in our register.component.ts. So for that, first of all, we need to inject that particular service in this component.ts. So type it something like this. Let me write it at user service, and this is of type. The name of the service is user, right? The name of the service is user service. So you need to type it as user service. If you go and check, this user service will be imported. So we have imported user service. Now we are going to use this particular variable to subscribe to the service method. So type it something like this. This dot dot the name of the method, that is register user. Now we are going to pass all the values. So this dot full name, this dot email ID, this dot mobile number, and this dot age. As I told, we need to subscribe this particular method because we are using observable. So let me subscribe it, subscribe, and then once we subscribe it, we will get the response here. So suppose we are getting response as result. We are going to write the arrow function here. Let me write the arrow function first. So here we are going to declare a variable called status of type boolean. We will store this result in this particular variable. So this res variable will basically give the response. So we are going to use simple arrow function. We are not going to write anything else in this. So we will simply write console. We will just show this status. Whatever the value we will get from the subscribe method. Now we can also write another arrow function here, and this will give the error response. So let me write it first. We can also declare a variable of error of type string. Okay, now we are going to again we can just we'll console it. We are just storing it in a variable so that we can use it if required for our project. So the control, this first arrow function will only be executed when there will be no any exception in our program. Means when all the program gets executed successfully. And this second arrow function will be executed when there will be some exception in our program and we are returning some value from the exception. But for that we need to handle the error in our subscribe method. So let's go to the subscribe method and handle the error. So here we are going to write the code for handling the error. So okay, in the first argument, just to remove the error, I am typing something like anything, any value. I am just going to type any value in the first argument. Write it like HTTPS. Okay, and if you see the error has been removed. Now to handle the error, write something like this: pipe. In this method, write something like catch error, and then write something as this dot error handler. Okay, Now we are getting some errors. We need to, okay, we will resolve the error, but before that we need to define this error handler. This error handler is a method. So we need to define this first. Let us define it outside of this method. So here write it something like we need to write error handler. It will take error of type HTTP error response. Okay, we need to, okay, we need to import something to resolve these errors. We will do that. First of all, let's console this error here so that we can check what is the error. And also we are going to pass this error, so we will write something as throw error, and in this we will pass this error variable. Error, we can pass a message, I guess. Okay, now we will return this value. Now let's try to resolve the errors. So for that we have to import some packages here. This throw error is already imported here. Now we need to import this catch error, this HTTP error response. I guess the spelling is not correct. If we expand this, okay, so this HTTP error response is already imported. Now we have only one error, and that is catch error. So to resolve this, we need to import something like this. Import catch error from this. Let me try first. Operators, and I think yeah, that's fine. Our error is resolved. So there's no. So we are almost done with our Angular part. We have created a user service, we have defined a method, and we have subscribed this method to our component.ts. We have also handled the error. We will talk in more detail about error handling in our separate video. As of now, we are fine with it. We are not getting any error. So next, we are going to create our web API service now using ASP.NET Web API in our project. And we will host it to our local, and we will give the URL here as the first argument of this HTTP post. So this is our user service.ts. This is our register component.ts. We have subscribed that particular method. Now let's go to the solution view, and we will create a web API in this particular solution.